Welcome back, Paul Catalina and Garrett Ross. And Garrett, let's talk a little bit more Big 12 because the league is very, very interesting.
Yep.
And you know they don't have maybe the logjam that's been cleared out a little bit that the SEC does right now, which I mean could be really chaotic. As a matter of fact, you know people need Vandy like to beat Tennessee so that we can kind of clear that out. You know. Ole Miss needs to lose in the Egg Bowl, which is probably not going to happen. No. Alabama would need to lose in the Iron Bowl. Like those kind of things happen to get some clarity. But if those things do, like if a lot of those things do happen, if a bunch of the SEC teams take 3 losses, there's still going to be an SEC team that gets in over maybe even a 1-loss ACC team,
which is stupid. But
yeah. So, like if there's a 1-loss ACC team. Because right now it's Clemson, Miami, SMU. None of them play each other the next 2 weeks. So if all of them have 1 loss and then one of them wins the title and the other one loses and has 2 losses and then the other one's sitting there with 1 loss, unless it's Clemson.
Yeah.
And even then, like Clemson has not.
But they haven't played. Anytime
Clemson has 2 losses. I'm sorry. Clemson has 2 losses. So, yeah. But, yeah. So, I don't know. But. Looking at this last week, Baylor winning in Morgantown, I know that like the rest of the college football world may not realize how big a deal it is for Baylor to finally win there, but to finally beat TCU at a big spot when they needed to was a huge thing, and then to finally beat West Virginia in Morgantown, which cost them a shot at the playoff in 2014. Inexplicably, that's like one of the first things that said none of this makes sense. But yeah, that was huge. And here are the things that happened because of that game. Baylor got bowl eligible. They were 2-4 6 weeks ago, and then between 4 games and 2 byes have turned into a team that can beat anybody that lines up against them right now. Sawyer Robertson became a stud quarterback. Dave Aranda is now solidified and not going anywhere, which is good news. Like, I know there were some people who wanted him gone before the year started.
I think he's the perfect guy for the job.
Letting him find where he needed to be and what he was doing wrong and letting him correct that has proven to be a boon for Baylor, not only on the field, but now they don't have to pay a $20+ million buyout and start all over again.
And they also don't have to worry about losing that recruiting class, which is stacked.
Yeah, and the other thing is bringing in Keenan Hall and Jake Spavital and some of the guys they brought in are really good recruiters. Now, it's going to be incumbent upon them to keep those guys on staff, which is going to be really, really hard. But
I think you can keep them at least a couple of years.
I think so. But again, like they're going to be in demand.
Oh yeah,
you know, for open coordinator positions. But like that was a huge thing, and it was another loss in Morgantown where they gave up a ton of points, and Neal Brown now just took his 5th loss. They're 5-5. They have UCF and at Tech.
That's not easy. Either one of those.
It's not easy. Like, look, UCF I know has been a bit of a disaster, but you know who's got the emotions right now. And look, I kind of feel bad. I feel bad for West Virginia in that Garrett Green played pretty well. You know, it looked like the Garrett Green that we know, but their defense couldn't stop Baylor at all. And then you've got to go to Lubbock that last week of the season when you might be 5-6 and playing for a bowl game. It's not a place in an offense I want to face.
No, and I don't think if you have to go into Lubbock to become bowl eligible, you can just kiss it goodbye. I do not see them being able to, and I know Texas Tech has shown that they're vulnerable at home at times this season, but I don't think I would trust Neal Brown in that situation to go in and have to get that done. I think you need to find a way, if you're West Virginia, to get it done this weekend to become bowl eligible, because if you don't, I don't see it happening this season.
Yeah, I don't either. I don't. I think that I think it's going to be difficult. It's going to be difficult for them to claw back out of it. And that's a job, like, if you want to tell me a job that I can legitimately see a coach getting fired, I'll tell you, of the 16 jobs in the Big 12, Willie Fritz isn't going anywhere.
No.
Lance Leipold's not going anywhere. Kalani Sitake's not going anywhere. Kai Whittingham may retire, but they already have a head coach, so that job's not even really open. Dion probably not going anywhere. If that job's open,
think he's
something
staying.
crazy's happened. Dave Aranda not going anywhere. Scott Satterfield not going anywhere. Matt Campbell not going anywhere. And that just basically leaves Arizona
Gus
and Brent Brennan. Yeah, Gus probably not going anywhere this year. But, Gus will be put on notice.
Right, yeah.
But that leaves Brent Brennan in the kind of, well, this just didn't work out. Let's cut bait before we go, because they know there's no way. Like, I'll tell you right now, if Noah Fafita's back at Arizona, that is a miracle.
I don't think he's coming back.
Tyrone
No.
McMillan's a top 5 pick. Like, you're losing him. Like, Noah Fafita can put himself in the transfer portal and make almost $2 million. So, I think that's kind of a wrap to me. So, if you're going to let him get, like, the only reason you would keep Brent Brennan is like, well, what the hell? Like,
right.
Let's just see what he can do. And I like Brent Brennan, but he may not be the guy. And Jason Shears reported several times, like,
it's not going well for him.
It's not going great, but they did get the win over Houston this week, and so that buys them another week, obviously. And look, they're 4-6. They got to win the last 2 to make a bowl. So we'll see what happens when that all goes down. But yeah, Chris Kleiman's not going anywhere. Like, all those things are solid. There's not a lot of guys going anywhere
across
else.
the board. Yeah,
but like Mac Brown might retire. I can see Lincoln Riley like doing something crazy. But I don't know. Like, it may not be the right time. But if the Bears just go, look, the best we can get out of Caleb Williams is Lincoln Riley, even though he hasn't been good there. Maybe it's time. Maybe he'll be a good, like, let's hire him, because we don't want to waste this talent that we have at quarterback, the first, like, really talented quarterback they've had in 50 years. And so there's not going to be a lot of positions open, but West Virginia is one that every time they give up 49 points at home and lose at home, I just see Ren Baker not being able to have the support within the university for him to bring Neal Brown back.
No, and he's had to deal with a lot of adversity since taking that job and make some tough decisions. And I don't think he necessarily wants to fire Neal Brown. But this might be a situation where his hand is forced at the end of the year, especially if they can't find a win in the next 2 games. I think you got to let him go, honestly.
Yeah. I mean, like, there's hands are going to get forced in a situation like that, especially if they're 5-7. Then you've got a 4-game drop off, a 4-win drop off from a year ago. West Virginia is one where I can see, like, okay. And Neal Brown wasn't Ren Baker's guy. He didn't bring him in.
What about TCU? Do you think – because I know like a couple weeks back we were talking – you think they're good now?
Right. Yeah. I don't think you're going to be able to keep Josh Hoover if you let Sonny Dykes go.
No, not at all.
He might have to make some, I would say, minor staff changes, but nothing like, wholesale.
Right.
Phil
You've
Longo
already changed
got let
defensive
go
coordinators once. So
What?
You've already changed your defensive coordinator once. So
Yeah. So I don't think the offensive coordinator is the problem. They just got to get better running the ball, and they seem to figure that out, with Savion Williams right now. But that's more of an off-season thing for them. But I mean, who's getting let go in the SEC? It's not going to be Brian Kelly, not right away.
No, I mean, with Napier already being shored up,
Napier's shored up.
I don't know where you would. Pittman saved his job. Levy's got plenty of time. This is first year.
First year, quarterback got hurt. I mean,
I think everybody's good.
Yeah.
I mean, barring. I think Auburn probably give Hugh Freeze one more year, but that would be one maybe to monitor. But does somebody come after? Here's the thing: like, if somebody comes after Drinkowitz, then maybe Mizzou would open up. But that's going to have to be.
But who's coming after him?
That's the thing, though. It's like, who's going to
right? Like, who's coming after him? I mean,
I don't know.
I don't think Venables is getting, like, the 2 coaches from legacy programs that I think in the country, blue bloods or whatever you want to call them, FSU and Oklahoma. Oklahoma's bluer blood. Don't get me wrong here, but But those two coaches aren't going anywhere this year. They're being given a chance to fix it, and they're going to spend a ton of money trying to fix it, and then we'll see what happens. But the Big Ten, like Purdue's probably going to be open, but like that. Purdue's not going to go hire Eli Drinkwitz away from Missouri.
No.
So, yeah, there's not going to be a lot open. Now, there might be something open. Nobody say Jamie Chadwell gets North Carolina, which I think would be an excellent hire. I'm Jamie Chadwell fan club. So, I don't know. That there's not going to be a lot of turnover, but West Virginia, that's the one in the Big 12 that if you had to say, what job will definitely change, I would say that one. And I don't even think definitely, but I do think that there's a good shot because, this year has just gone so poorly for them.
Yeah. If they do, if West Virginia was to make a coaching hire, do you think they would stick? Because we see it happen every time, right? You go the total opposite route. So the last hire, and I know that Wren didn't make the hire, but you went lower down, bringing Neal Brown from Troy at the time. Do you think he would go big name, try to stay up, or would you take a swing at a John Summerall and try to get him from Tulane and try to take that same path?
I would. I don't know. Ironically, he was also the head coach at Troy.
I know. It's weird.
Would I take a swing at John Summerall? Maybe. Would I take a swing at Jamie Chadwell? Maybe. West Virginia's not going to be if Florida was going to be open, Florida was going to have maybe the cachet to go get Lane Kiffin away from Ole Miss, right?
Yeah.
Or hire someone like that. I don't think West Virginia, as good a job it is, it's a really good job.
It's a really good job.
First of all, you've got a super engaged president that understands sports. You've got a really good athletic director
you do.
that will support you. You've got a fan base that loves their sports, loves them. You name it, they love it. Men's basketball, women's basketball, whatever, they love it. So you've got fans that are invested. You're not going to have to really push too hard, I think, for a little bit of a bump in NIL investment because they've shown they're willing to do that, especially with basketball and what they're doing there. And in fact, basketball wouldn't be in this in a rebuild situation, if not for the personal problems of their Hall of Fame level coach. That had. Bob Huggins had personal problems. This is what happened.
Correct.
But now they've got a new basketball coach. Things are looking up there. Yeah, I think part of it is if you're Wren Baker, you've got to keep fundraising up and all this. And if you can't get people excited about football, then you have to make a change. Yeah, I think that's a place that you would want to go. I just don't know if they could just go and pluck somebody from, they can't go hire Eli Drinkwitz.
Right, yeah.
Being in the SEC is just more valuable than it is being in the Big 12 because of,
the
reasons.
Financial gap.
So,
no.
yeah. There's a bunch of guys who are going to be on notice next year. Gus Malzahn, Mike Gundy, I could see retiring after the year if they don't right the ship, because this was such a drop for them. I can see other people retiring, but when you talk about next year, who's on notice? Norvell's on notice, Gus Malzahn's on notice. If Neal Brown comes back, he's definitely on notice. If Brent Brennan comes back, he's on. There's a bunch of guys that are on notice, but. Also, with the 12-team playoff, now you've got more weeks where you might even just wanting to get a coordinator are going to be harder. If I want to hire Glenn Schumann from Georgia,
you have to wait it out.
Might be a little bit harder for me to get him away. And if I'm West Virginia, the other thing is they think, well, Jimbo Fisher is going to throw his hat in the ring for that job.
I knew that was coming.
I don't know if you want to do that.
I wouldn't.
Maybe Jimbo's changed in this year off.
Yeah. Yeah, I bet he has.
Yeah. So, yeah, and then April begins revenue sharing, so the whole thing's going to change.
Totally different.
So do you want to maybe pause at all that, and then next year when they know what the first year of revenue sharing looks like and where money has to be pointed in whatever direction, then you might see a culling of the herd. But, Kim, thank you. Great point.
Yep, that's a great
on that
point.
one. Yeah, revenue sharing starts in April, so
we
don't even know how that affects it.